Hi guys, welcome to this technique analysis. You saw this fight happen on UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Stevens. That's Fight Night 159 or UFC on ESPN plus 17. And we saw Steven Peterson defeat Martin Bravo in what we can now call the duel of the spinning back fists. It's a little bit of an interesting case here because we don't often see these kind of almost simultaneous knockouts, meaning that one guy narrowly misses with the same technique that is then used against him to knock him out. But it's an interesting case nonetheless. So let's get right to it. So what you'll see is right before this happened, Martin Bravo was stepping towards his right. Not quickly, but he was moving towards his right. And then what you see is that Steven's going to launch his jab to set up the spinning back fist. Little did he know that Bravo had actually the same idea entering that spinning back fist as well. And he gets a drop on him by going a little bit quicker. So what you see is the jab here. And the first thing I want to point out is that look where I'm going to place Bravo's head. It's right here. Okay, I'm going to go frame by frame so you can see here. You can see that the fist narrowly misses. So this is just a little bit of a glancing blow, touching the ear, slightly touching the neck. Bravo is lucky that he didn't get nailed by that jab. He didn't do head movement. He didn't really evade. The only thing he actually did was trying to get the spin going. So that is a narrow escape. So he could have eaten that jab really badly. So that's the first thing. As you set up your spinning back fist, be careful in the way you do that. Now, here it gets interesting. So he starts to spin, and you can see, and I'll go really slow, you can see that his spin is actually what is going to launch Peterson's jab into the rotation. So watch carefully. We'll go frame by frame. Here you see that his elbow, so I'm going to point it out just right here. This is the space where the back of Martin's upper arm is pushing against the forearm of Peterson's jab here, and he's going to push, thanks to the velocity of his spin, push that arm away. So we'll see it better in a different angle. And here the interesting thing happens is that as he pushes it away, you can see that his elbow is actually lower than the shoulder level of his opponent, which means that he can no longer get to the face as a target. And that is why he fails to make contact. So he did get the speed advantage, but didn't get the angle. And here we have the follow through, and you can see clearly that he misses. I mean, look at how low he is. So that's another point. You get the elbow here, you get the fist, which is lower, which means that there's no way he can go suddenly upwards towards the head. So that's another point. He slips off the back and he is totally exposed. I want you to watch it, and I'll show different angles so you can see it better. But this is the moment where his spin pretty much completes. And this is the moment where he should have been able to extend the arm into that spinning back fist. He wasn't able to because of the circumstances I just explained, but that would have been ideally. Now look at what happens to his face. He is going to completely expose himself. You can see that right now his shoulder and arm are completely out of position, and there's nothing stopping that spinning back fist from Peterson to land. So he's wide open. This is my main criticism of both fighters. He's wide open. There's no defense. There's nothing. He's wide open. And this is the contact point, follow through. And this is the kind of head rotation that is known to knock people out because the chin is hit and that rotates the head, that jars the brain inside of your skull, and you go down or you're out completely. So that's the first part, and you can see, I mean, he's just out of it. He drops down, and Peterson follows up with a hammer fist pro forma, but it's actually not necessary. See, there's no reaction here. He's just eating it, and they're done. So taking a look at the top-down angle, it's a little bit better to see certain aspects. So this is a part where I mentioned that you can see that Bravo was moving towards his right. And notice this is the point where you're going to see that Peterson is actually taking that step forward already. So he's committing to his attack. So, and if you watch it frame by frame, you'll see here he commits to the attack, and immediately Bravo here is going to start to spin. So you can see here clearly that the jab misses. So that's the first thing that I mentioned before. You can see that the jab misses. There's no contact whatsoever here. It's a glancing blow at best, but clearly it didn't affect Bravo. It wasn't really all that painful or didn't cause him to be messed up or anything. So that's the first thing. Then second, here you can clearly see what I mentioned before is that as he spins, as Bravo spins, he's actually pushing the forearm here of Peterson away from him. So he's actually helping Peterson get into the spin himself. So we'll go slowly, and here the image quality isn't great, but this is the point where he glances off the back, and you can see that he's totally exposed. Now, I'm going to stop the frame here. So he saw Peterson's head around this spot. So this would be the spot where ideally he would make contact as he is spinning into his technique. That would have been it. Now, I'll keep this here so you can see it. Okay, that would have been where he would ideally have landed. Now watch what happens next. Now, here I'm going to pause just before the impact. Okay, now what you'll notice here is that Bravo's hand is completely out of position. He's got another hand right here that isn't covering anything. And you can see that his face is wide open. There's nothing in the way to stop anything from coming in. It doesn't even have to be a spinning back fist, could have been a hook, could have been anything else, but Bravo's wide open. This is my main criticism of both fighters, but because they actually both have the same issue. So you can see that Peterson here is going to land his punch, and you can see that that's a really good punch. Now notice the same thing. This is the moment of impact, right? So I want you to focus on where his head is at. This is the moment of impact. Now he's going to keep going, and here this is pretty much where his arm is going to drop. So you've got this whole arc of this is the moment of impact, and you've got pretty much 90 degrees of the arm continuing, doing nothing but continuing the arc and leaving his face wide open should he not have landed that technique. Now there are different ways of doing the spinning back fist, but this is one that I see coming up more and more in MMA, and it leaves you vulnerable, as is clearly demonstrated here in this knockout. Give you guys a better angle still. Again, you see Bravo going down, poor man. So I'm gonna go slow, frame by frame. Now you see the jab misses, the spin starts, right? So this is all fine and dandy, and here you can see that moment where Bravo is actually pushing Peterson's arm away, and this is the point that I wanted to make before. See, the elbow should have been over here, and then he would have been able to extend his arm into the target. So because of the slight miscalculation and because that arm got in his way, he couldn't really get to that point. So as of right now, as of this moment in time, it's a fraction of a second where he's pushing his opponent's arm away. He cannot complete the elbow. However, he needs to continue the spin. He cannot stop in mid-motion because he would be turned with his back to his opponent, and that's crazy. You end up getting really beat up there. So he has no other option to spin. He doesn't even have time to think about it, really. And you can see here, this is the point where he misses. And I want you to watch how long it takes that there's nothing going on but just standing with his head immobile, and then he takes the punch himself. So, and then there's a follow through. Now, I want you to watch here the same thing when I show you how Peterson ends up. So he's standing in an off-balance position. He's got his head wide open. Over here, I'll go back a few frames. You can see that his hand is down over here, and I'll go a few frames further, and here you see his hands wide open here. He is exhibiting the exact same issues and problems that Bravo has, and that means that after he completes the spinning back fist, if it doesn't land, he's wide open for counters. Now there's two ways you can fix that. You can spin through, and that requires you to be off balance, or you can stay hidden behind that arm. So I'll show you a little bit on the other side. So I'm going to continue so you get one more angle. Okay, so clearly this is a really good close-up. You can see again, same spin, jab misses, pushes the arm out of the way, and I'm going to go stop here. So the ideal position, if you do not want to spin through and go wide open, is that you end up over here, as Bravo is here. So you've got the elbow, which is here, and then you would extend the arm. Now the main point is that you have your head over here, but see, what you have is that the chin is actually hidden behind the shoulder. And that is the key point in trying to protect yourself as much as you can. The biggest danger is getting exactly what Bravo got here, is that somebody hooks into or punches into your face as you open up after finishing that spinning attack. So that is the key point, is that try to stay hidden behind your shoulder as you extend your arm. You might have to duck a little bit, tuck your head in a little bit, that's all fine, but try to defend yourself before, during, and after you do a technique, as opposed to throw some stuff towards your opponent and then you end up getting beaten like happens here. So again, same thing. I'm going to complete the technique. So again, moment of impact, right? So watch again, notice how Peterson is here, he's off balance and he is looking at his opponent. So he's standing, his head's right here and he is looking right at his opponent. So that's fine, that's all good. So ideally for him, he would also stop here. So he would stop his momentum and he would keep his arm in this position where he is hidden. His chin is now hidden, especially as he's leaning off a little bit backwards. His chin is hidden from what is most arguably the dangerous counter here to that technique, is that within the left hand or a right straight shot. If he would have kept his left hand up over here, which is one of the things I drill my students in, that would have been even better. But you see, there are ways to keep yourself a little bit more safe. Just like you need to pick up your hands when you do a punch, just like you need to retract your leg quickly when you do a kick, when you do a spinning back fist, there are ways to keep yourself a little bit safer. Nothing's guaranteed though, doesn't exist. However, you can and should, in my opinion, do as much as you can to keep yourself safe and avoid being countered. That is, if you don't mind getting brain damage, then go right ahead and ignore everything I just said. Anyway, that's it for this technique analysis. If you guys enjoyed this one, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Always interested in hearing your feedback. And obviously, if you can use this analysis of the technique that Peterson used to knock out Bravo with that very nice, nicely timed, and I should give him that spinning back fist. Well, go right ahead. And as a quick bonus, I'll give you one more thing before I finish. I'll see if I can find a better way to frame that. Hold on a second, because there's actually a quite interesting point for everybody who kept on listening. If you do the spinning back fist, do it like Peterson did here, and that means that his thumb is horizontally facing in. The back of his fist is what he hits with, so the hammer part. Still, a lot of fighters use the back knuckle. It doesn't work as well. You can argue about this all day long, but the results are pretty much in. If you use the hammer part of your fist, the bottom part of the fist, as opposed to the side your knuckles are on, well, it's going to hit so much harder. One of the reasons is the glove in MMA is actually not as thick there. Shh, don't tell anybody. Now you know the secret. All right, that's it. Thank you guys. Take care and talk to you next time.